Aloha, good morning, everybody. My name is Karen Hughes, and I am the Vice President of Meet Hawaii and Travel Industry Partnerships at the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau. And I'm really delighted to be here today. This is always such a great re-energizing time for me to sit and hear about all the great, authentic experiences that our visitors can enjoy. So today we have some fun panelists to talk with us. First of all, we have, many of you know Pam Davis. If you don't know Pam, you certainly remember her dad, Rick, who launched Aloha magazine. Pam worked in every department of that magazine. She's been around this industry for a very long time, and now she is the publisher and owner of the Oahu Concierge, which is a monthly industry magazine geared toward keeping the hospitality industry informed about what's going on around the island. So welcome, Pam. And our other panelist this morning. Our other panelist this morning is Damon Fairchild, who fell in love with Hawaii in 2000 when he came here to attend BYU in Laie. And he is currently the Senior Concierge Manager at Expedia Local Expert. So really, he and his team really have that hands-on, face-to-face relationship with the visitor industry. So I'm going to let them both give you an introduction, and just for clarification, you are currently in the session called Make Your Heritage Site Stand Out, Navigating the Tourism Industry. So hopefully that's where you want to be. And with that, I'll introduce Pam to give us her presentation.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me today. As mentioned, I am the publisher of the Oahu Concierge magazine, and we are a monthly publication that is geared directly towards the front of the house hospitality industry. My job is to help them do their job better. As it was so tactfully mentioned to me last night when somebody asked me what I did, and they said, well, it must be very new, I've never heard about you. We've been around doing this since 1998, but if you're not in the industry, you really would have no idea what this publication is about, because we only distribute to the hotels, not to the street or anywhere else. So I thought I'd take a few minutes just to sort of talk about the publication so you know what we do. And if you know about it, I apologize if there's anything repetitious. It started on Maui. Many of you guys remember back in the 90s, walking down Front Street was a little bit crazy. You couldn't go anywhere without being mobbed by timeshare salesmen. And what was happening is the different activities that were out there were getting these $100 tickets sort of given away that they were selling to these people at a discount, so that these $100 helicopter rides were being given. Come listen to our timeshare presentation. So a bunch of the different activities sort of formed a hui so they could pool their limited marketing dollars and actually reach into the hotels and sell those tickets to people long before they ever walked out onto the street and get mobbed. The biggest offender back then was a company called Activity World, which I do believe Expedia now owns or bought, or vice versa, something like that. So we interconnect quite a bit. They launched a magazine called the Maui Concierge. A few months later, it was having tremendous success, and they decided to move one over here and launch it as the Oahu Concierge. And they were looking for a sales rep. As Karen mentioned, I worked in the Aloha, the magazine of Hawaii. I was also one of the sales reps for Maui, the Magic Isles, and the islands of Aloha. So Tony Marie Davis, no relation, was looking for a sales rep and said, oh, I like that Pam Davis girl. Maybe she'll take it on. My father told me, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole, and gee, 16 years later, here we are. But so they were doing this for a couple months. This is one of the 1998 issues, very basic. This was about, I think this one was 8 pages, black and white. Colorful, things like that. Or not colorful, I should say. I came from Aloha Magazine, where we had an international audience. There was never any contact with the viewer or the readership. And suddenly I start working on this, and people are calling me, and they tell me what they like and what they don't like, and God forbid we make a mistake. I got all sorts of things on that. And I was interested in it. And about 6 months after I started, I remember my ad list was due at noon, and she called at 10 o'clock in the morning and said, and I went, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not ready, but I'll have everything ready for you at noon. We're like scheduled. And she goes, that's not really why I'm calling. You know, we're here on Maui. We decided to put all of our money onto the internet, and we're not going to do the Oahu concierge anymore. And I'm like, oh, wow, as of when? Just about 10 minutes ago. And without thinking, I said, well, how much do you want for it? And I bought it, and this is where we end up today. So I started doing this. I started with the format that they had, and then I did what every restaurant and activity in this town has learned. These guys respond really well to bribery. So I started quizzing them and asking what they like and what they don't like. And we have ended up with the publication that we have today. So I'm going to briefly take you through it so you know what it is. Basically, what we try to do is cover everything. So we have our cover stories, which are either big events like HIF or what is that, the Matsuri in Hawaii. We try to cover other things that came up. This is when the tigers were born at the zoo. Polo season started. This is our current issue. We too deal with things that you deal with. Notice my wonderful cover story on Bayfest. That was canceled about a week before it happened. But by then we're already in print. So that is the problem when you're dealing with a print publication. We try to intermix everything that's happening on the island as well as historical things that are going on. You can see here we have a cover story also on 100 years of Diamond Head Theater celebrating the arts. We go through into a section called Yada Yada, where we do try to talk about where industry people have moved, who's moved from what hotel, who's joined where. Newsflash is, according to the surveys, an extremely popular section. It's things that don't really warrant an entire story, but we want to keep them on the pulse of what's open, what's closed, what's new, what's going on, what people have added. Oh, again, another one of those moments. Talk Story Festival, I believe that'll happen next week now. This is our October story. We run Arts with Aloha. This is a column that Lisa Josephson, if many of you remember her, and Ann Smoke got me to agree to run a long time ago, back when they were doing a hui, and we've kept that section going, which we cover Bishop Museum, the theater, Iolani Palace, and we try Hawaii Theater, and we try to make sure that they know what cultural things are going on. Auntie Lynn, many of you know Lynn Cook. For years, I tried to sort of pigeonhole her into a specific topic every month. She cannot be pigeonholed. She writes about what she writes about, hence Auntie Lynn's adventures. But she focuses a lot on Hawaiiana and hula, things like that. As we continue, you see just different stories of what's happening. That's the Duke's Festival. Chef Corner, where we get to get a closer look at visiting and local chefs. We went into an entertainment calendar where we put live music at things that we know that the concierge can recommend. You know, some of the best music used to be at Sand Island R&B, but it's not really one of the places you're going to send a visitor to, so there's a lot of Dukes and things like that where they know they can be comfortable with the service and the quality that's there. We run into a 3-dot column about dining, as well as a dining calendar. This is where what restaurants are open and closed. Calendars of events, hiking, more of the events that are going around town. And then you see these photos, photo collage. We also have started running concierge events, basically where we work with restaurants or activities to get the right audience there. This in itself has been quite the education, because in the beginning it was simply concierge. That is the name of the publication. But the market started to turn around. So I remember clearly soon after I started doing these, somebody from the Outrigger Waikiki called me, and I had invited the concierge desk and the concierge attendant. It was one desk with 2 chairs in front of it, and across from it, if you're familiar with the Outrigger Waikiki lobby, is a very long desk of front desk agents with about 10 chairs. Well, a couple would sit down with the concierge, and he would start booking their reservation for golf or telling them where to go to Bishop Museum and what was going on there. And the other people in the lobby would get tired of waiting and turn around and ask the front desk, where is answer the question. So she was calling to scold me because my invitations never included the front desk agent, and explained that. So we started developing and moving more towards more people in the front of the house. That was the beginning of how the industry started to change on our side. More things. And then we start going here where we have an Expedia agent. Where we do Concierge of the Month, where this is not from me. I take nominations from the industry themselves, and then we feature one each month. I have a very simple rule. We simply don't ever repeat anybody because there's so many people in this industry that deserve recognition that we don't do that. But you'll notice on top it says Activity Concierge, and that was sort of what I ended up doing as a compromise because, again, the industry kept changing. Concierge went from being sitting at that desk to that desk became a source of revenue for hotels, and they started basically leasing it out to a company like Expedia. And in the very beginning, in the early 2000s, when they really started getting a foothold on that, there was a little bit of pushback, to put it mildly, from the quote-unquote to concierge. They didn't want to be at the same events. They didn't want to do anything like that. When Expedia started on our side, they were activity agents. And then when they did their transfer into looking more towards the service, they changed their name to concierge. And as I told Damon when we talked about this last week, it ended up being a little bit of a shall we say, discussion with one of the Expedia higher-ups at the time, who held all of the magazines hostage for a couple months because on my mailing list, where I keep them, concierge, front desk, PBX, Japanese PBX activity, I had Expedia down as activity agent. He refused to deliver the magazines to any of the agents until I called them a concierge. And I said, you couldn't tell me how to maintain my mailing list. And it worked out to, for 3 months, he would not deliver the magazine, and the concierge would call me, and I would go hand deliver it to them when they wanted it because it's such a useful tool to them. And then they started, Expedia's, big elephant in the room, and they've just sort of expanded, taking over desk after desk after desk, and other companies are following their format. If you go to the Kahala Hotel, they sit there at a concierge desk, they're wearing a concierge uniform from the hotel, but their parent company is Play Paradise, and it's a separate thing following the model that Expedia is doing. And the industry has changed over the years, and we've had to learn to adapt with it. So what we do is simply provide the tools, and we try to get as much information as we can in a concise format as we can to help them do their jobs better. And we try to cover everything from the activities to the dining to the cultural and do the best job we can with it. Through that, we've little piece here, I keep talking, sorry about that. And through that, we've just developed a very strong relationship with this industry over the past 16 years. I call many of them friends now, and I am just their, I guess, the go-to gal. They hit a random question, they can't find an answer, they call me. I may not know the answer, but I'm fortunate I'm born and raised here, so I can usually call up and figure out exactly what it is that they're looking for. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what we do. And then we also feature our Concierge of the Year award, where the first time an activity agent or an activity concierge won. I had a huge riot with the concierge, the true concierge, as they like to call themselves. But it's been nice to see that as this moves forward and as the services move forward and the industry moves forward, that they are learning to work more together as a collective unit with one goal, which is to make sure that the guest has the best opportunity and the best experience here that they can, and intermix everything from fine dining to the beaches to the hiking to the cultural. So that's basically basically what I am in a nutshell and what we do. And I think this will be a good moment to turn it over to Damon, and then we can probably go back and forth on this for a long time when he's done. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Pam, and aloha. I'm excited to be here as well, and I don't know if you noticed, you were probably focused on Pam, but as she occasionally called us agents or activity concierges, and still deep down inside of herself, she has a hard time calling us a true concierge. What I hope to do today is sort of show you the evolution from those early days that Pam mentioned into what we are now, and how making that transition has really helped our business and can really help your businesses as well. So we'll start off I'm going to give an introduction of myself, a little bit about Expedia Inc. and some of those perceptions that Pam talked about earlier, who we were, who we are now, and then who is today's concierge and what does it mean for your business? So just to talk about myself a little bit, I came here in 1999 chasing a beautiful girl. It was an excellent reason to come, and she happened to be at the BYU Hawaii campus. And I remember walking on campus, a very distinct experience, as the library was on my right-hand side and the McKay faculty building on the left, and in the background were the mountains and the clouds. A very distinct feeling of I lost my train of thought. A very distinct feeling of being welcome, and a feeling that I wanted to stay for a long time. And I'm grateful for that feeling. I've never forgotten it, and it's part of what has driven me to stay here. And fortunately, about 15 years later, that beautiful girl that I was chasing, and I have 3 gorgeous little girls, and have spent a significant amount of time living here on Hawaii, and are grateful to live here. Now, I know you're probably looking at her and thinking that I definitely married out of my league, and it's true in a lot of aspects, but I was fortunate to meet her when I still had some hair and some muscles. And as the hair has gone away and the pounds have added on, she found other ways and other reasons to love me, so I'm grateful for that. I am, as Karen mentioned, the Senior Concierge Manager at Expedia Local Expert, and I specifically oversee the islands of Oahu and Kauai, about 100 concierges that I oversee, and I'll talk a little bit more about our greater business later, but we're a part of the Expedia brand of families. Most recognizable, Expedia, Hotels.com, and Hotwire. Being a part of that family, there are some great advantages. Expedia is the largest travel company in the world. We did about $34 billion in gross bookings, about $4 billion in revenue. We're in the S&P 500, and we have more than 190 travel sites in 70 different countries. And while the company has really done an excellent job of localizing those messages online, our objective at Expedia Local Expert is to localize the experience that our guests have with us. Ramsey mentioned it earlier in his presentation, and he talked about moving from transactions to relationships, and that's what we have really found has made a tremendous amount of difference in our business. Now, I mentioned some statistics earlier, and a couple that I want to point out here. 30 million airline tickets, 119 million room nights, but only 3 million in activities. And while that seems like a relatively significant number, comparatively it's not. And I think we have some excellent news that I'll be able to share with you today as to the advantage or the potential benefit that the industry has through the concierge service. And as much as we want to believe that people love that 10-hour flight from New York to Hawaii, we really feel like they're on their way here because they want to do something, because they want to experience the culture, because they want to have some adventure, because they want to taste some food that they've never tasted before. So it's the activities and the culture and the heritage, like we're talking about at this conference, that really bring guests here. And because we have realized the importance of those activities, we've worked really hard. We have over 2,000 activity offerings here in Hawaii, and almost 700 just on Oahu. Now, Expedia Inc. has done a fantastic job of reaching the online guest, to book hotels, and to book airfare. And like I mentioned earlier, that 3 million number in activities doesn't seem to fit in with the success there. So I wanted to talk just for a minute about a specific segment of travelers we call the active traveler. The active traveler represents about 64 million of the 112 million US travelers every year. And here's an interesting fact, is that 80% of those active travelers shop online. They use their computer, their phone, their tablet, or whatever it is. But interestingly enough, those same 80% purchase offline or in market once they've reached their destination. So it's extremely important that, yes, you do have a web presence, and it's extremely important that you focus marketing efforts on reaching that guest before they get here. But the great majority of those active travelers are going to make a purchase once they're in market, which means there's a tremendous opportunity for the concierge and a tremendous opportunity for the hotels and tremendous opportunity for activity suppliers. Because of this tremendous opportunity, we're open now in 12 markets worldwide. Here in Hawaii specifically, we're in 60 hotels, and we have about 200 concierges, whose primary objective is to build a relationship, like I mentioned earlier, with the guests. I want to talk for a minute about who we were. And you can see from this picture right here that we were Expedia Local Expert Activities and Tickets. When it all started, back when Pam mentioned, the primary objective was to sell someone a ticket. And if we can sell them a ticket, we won. And we could have cared less about a dining reservation. And we weren't really concerned about providing anything other than a link between the guest and an activity. But we were wrong. And we realized that we were wrong. And we're willing to recognize that. And we had a complete paradigm shift in the way that we operated. And the shift really meant that we went from focusing solely on the sale to focusing on the person. And we created 4 aspirations, and the first of those aspirations is that we want every guest to feel that an Expedia Local Expert Concierge was the highlight of their visit. Not just the one who's purchasing an activity, not just the one who's going to spend money with us, but we want to connect with any guest, whether it's a simple dining reservation, whether they want to know how to get to the pool. We want to be the highlight of that guest's visit. We want them to remember us as having had an impact on their trip, and as being the reason why they were able to really live their dream vacation. The second aspiration is sort of a bold statement, and it's that we want every lodging partner to feel that an Expedia Local Expert Concierge provides the best service on the property. Now, we believe that our partners have amazing service, that the front desk staff, the bell staff, the valet, the managers all provide an amazing service at their hotel. Our goal is to just add a little bit to that. We want a guest to feel like when they have a question that they should come to the concierge, that when they have a concern that they should come to the concierge, and they should know that the concierge is going to provide them with an amazing experience, even greater than the one that they initially anticipated. In fact, we found some success in doing this. As we made that paradigm shift and as we transitioned into being what we believe to be a true concierge, we've gained some recognition, and almost instantly, almost overnight, our sales averages doubled, our total sales almost doubled, because we realized the importance of connecting with the guest. We realized the importance of listening more than talking. Our hope is that our concierge listens to the guest's wishes, that our concierge understands what the guest's needs are, and in understanding those needs, we're able to make the best recommendations. We've been, again, recognized in the industry, nominated a number of times for Concierge of the Month. In fact, Expedia worldwide has a Concierge of the Year award that they give every year, and 2 of our concierges from right here in Hawaii are finalists for the Expedia Worldwide Concierge of the Year, which will be awarded in Las Vegas. So just a quick quote from Thomas Foti, the GM at Hilton Waikiki Beach. Since signing with ELE, we have found their team to be professional, engaging, and a seamless part of our ohana, furthering our outstanding service efforts. And what's great to me about this quote is he doesn't mention anything about sales. He doesn't mention anything about the revenue that's being generated for his hotel. when asked about his true feelings about our concierge service, he focused on the service, which is another reason why we really feel like we have become a true concierge. We're being recognized, as you can imagine, on TripAdvisor and a number of other social media outlets. You could spend a tremendous amount of time reading all of the positive comments. We don't need to read all these, but the highlighted one of these says, "Our concierge, Heather, was amazing." Another, "Thank you, Tara, for the excellent customer service that you provided. We look forward to our stay at the Marriott and thanking you personally." So our concierges are even reaching guests before they come. They call and they have a question, and the concierge is able to engage them and to begin to open up a dialogue that will allow for that guest to share what their dreams are really when they come here to Hawaii. Well, our concierges are motivated by a number of things, and I want to highlight a few of them right now. I already have talked about service. They're really motivated by the satisfaction that comes from providing amazing guest service. I'm going to skip over to the left-hand side, and they're also motivated by that guest feedback. All of our concierges ask the guests, please, when you finish this activity, when you're done tonight or tomorrow, please come back and tell me how it went. Give me some feedback. An important tip for activity providers is to remind your guests, if you purchased this activity at your concierge desk, please go back and tell the concierge what a wonderful time you had. Concierges remember the positive experiences, right? They don't either forget the negative ones. So while our concierges don't expect that every activity is going to run perfectly and every customer or every guest, is going to be happy, they do remember the feedback that they get from those guests. They also remember the relationships that they have with your sales teams or with your ownership. It's extremely important to connect with the concierge on a personal level. As you build those relationships, the concierge will, in turn, have you in the top of their mind when they're making recommendations to guests. The final piece that we talk about here is sales. There's no question that in today's day and age, the concierge is motivated by sales. They make a base hourly wage, and then our concierges earn a commission as well. So in addition to everything that I've mentioned, if a concierge has done a great job of listening and a great job of finding out everything that a guest is hoping for, and they've got a few activities that the guest wants to do that are sort of, pretty similar, the reality in today's world is that concierge may make the decision of which recommendation to make based on which activity they're going to make the highest commission on. And I know that might sound ugly. It might not sound like it really fits into the traditional role of a concierge or hospitality. But in speaking with Frank about what we were going to present today and the current market, he said, I want you to talk about that. I think it's important for activity providers to know that it's also an essential element for the concierge. It's their way of life. It's how they feed their families. It's how they buy their kids their Halloween costumes. So it's an important factor for all of them. Our Expedia Local Expert concierges are also motivated by the growing online activity industry. And I mentioned earlier some of the patterns that work in our favor and that we believe will continue to be a reality. But TripAdvisor recently purchased Viator. Viator is the world's largest online activity company. They sold about $100 million in worldwide activities. But to give you a little bit of a frame of reference and understand how much value there still is in the concierge despite this growth, Viator sold that much worldwide and will sell more this year in the Hawaii market alone than Viator has sold worldwide. So the concierge still has a tremendous amount of influence on guest purchasing decisions. Yes, the online sales are growing. We're motivated to do our best to give the guest a reason to come back. Expedia also has an online activity presence, but we have a concierge, and especially in this market, we want guests to remember us, and that's why that first aspiration is so important to us, that we want every guest to feel that Expedia Local Expert Concierge was the highlight of their visit, so that when they go home, they don't tell their friends, oh yeah, I purchased these things on Expedia.com or on Viator.com. I bought these from my activity concierge. Heather was amazing at the Outrigger Waikiki. Noelani was amazing. Lydia was amazing. We want them to have that personal relationship and continue to grow our offline business. So our concierges really need to leave a lasting impact so that your businesses and our businesses can continue to flourish under the current model. I polled about 10 concierges and just asked them, what do you feel like your role is in sharing the culture of Hawaii with your guests? And I'll just read a couple of them. Hawaiian culture can be experienced in many ways: language, food, entertainment, hospitality. Another said, I share with them Hawaiian stories that my father told me when I was little. Concierges are aloha in action. We share the warm aloha spirit and service attitude, not because we are standing behind a desk and wearing a name tag, but because we have the spirit to treat them like our ohana. Our concierges really do see the value in connecting with the guest and building a personal relationship with them. Not only is it important for the market and Hawaii tourism and the guest experience, but it's important for our business. And we've seen, as they have done a better job over the years of really connecting with guests and building relationships, that it shows in the sales. And we constantly preach that great service leads to great sales. Our hope is that through our concierge service, that guests continue to return to Hawaii because they remember the relationships that they've built. And our hope is that through those relationships, our business can continue to grow, and that we can continue to help your businesses grow to reach your goals and to spread and share that spirit of aloha with all the guests who come to Hawaii, with every guest who comes to Hawaii. Thank you.
I would like to mention that although he only put up the pictures of Heather and James on Who's Won Concierge of the Month, there's actually been dozens and dozens over the years of Expedia agents that have received that honor.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Pam and Damon. Now it's your time. We would like to invite anybody who might have a question specifically about your businesses, and this session is really supposed to help you better understand how your business can leverage off of the tourism industry. So I invite anybody who might have a question to come up to the mic and ask either of the panelists. I see one brave soul coming up.
I'll be first.
Awesome.
Aloha, my name is Chris with Hawaii Forest and Trail, and my question is primarily for Damon, but Pam and Karen, if you want to jump in as well. As an activity provider, if you could maybe take 2 minutes and just talk about a need that you're seeing from the concierge side for heritage tourism, and what you look for and what you think would be beneficial for your agents.
Thanks. It's a great question, actually. And over the years, and even more recently, we have a lot more guests coming to us saying, I want to go somewhere where all of the rest of the tourists aren't going. I want to do something that nobody else has done. I want to experience the island in a way much different than previously experienced. And I'll use a Circle Island tour as an example. It's a great tour, and there is a market for, a tremendous market for the traditional island tour with a great guide who takes the guests around the island and introduces them to the island in that format. But more and more recently, we have had guests ask, is there a tour that I can get out and go swim for a little bit? Is there a tour that I can get out and hike to a waterfall? Is there a tour that I can go, again, somewhere where no one else has gone? So if there's a need in the industry, I would say our clients or guests are asking to experience more of the culture and more of the island that you just can't see or even find in some of the guidebooks.
And it's not really my role to answer the question, but since you asked, I will. I would say the word authentic comes up a lot. We hear that a lot from customers who are looking for authentic experiences, very similar to what Damon is saying.
And what I hear is it's the repeat visitor. Your first-time visitor, they're going to go to Pearl Harbor, they're going to go to Hanauma Bay, they're going to hike Diamond Head. But they've done that. So when they come back, they start exploring further. And that's just why we want them. You need to make sure that they know as much as they can. The more they know, the more they can answer the questions. because they get hit with 10,000 questions an hour. That's an exaggeration, but you get the gist.
Anybody else? Questions? Yes.
Hi.
Hi, aloha.
State Representative Cindy Evans. I'm sorry, but what I'm missing in this is what your organization or your concierge, what pops up in their mind when the word they want authentic, or they want heritage, or they want a cultural experience. What would they define? Have you, as leaders, helped them define what authenticity and what experience is? And the reason I say this is Anthony Robbins, for a long time, used to have his classes at the Hilton Waikoloa Village. And what he would do is one day, he would tell them, you need to go out and do community service. And so they'd get him on a bus. I happened to be involved with the Outdoor Circle, a bunch of Germans who didn't speak English. There was about 40 of them. They came up and we had them paint the curbs, clean the weeds, and interact with the children. We had the first grade come sing a song. I think those people went away. This was the best experience they ever had in Hawaii, was to connect with the community and actually give back and be part of the community. So I think Anthony Robbins connected the tourists with the community. But I don't know why, but when you're talking, when you've talked, and I've heard you talk, it sounds like activities. It doesn't sound like connection. And so how have you, if a tourist came up and said, I want something authentic, what does that mean to you, and what does that mean to your staff? Thank you.
You want to take this first, or?
Sure. Go ahead.
I'll let him speak to his agents in particular. What I hear from the different concierge, again, education, letting them know about it. We've done and been requested to do a lot of, actually to your topic, a lot of stories on volunteerism. In our hiking section, we usually put in different types of volunteer things where they can go clean up Kaneohe Bay or things to that effect. When I hear from the different concierge around town and the different companies, you're going to have your malihini that now live here that do it, but there's a lot of Hawaiians that are working at the desk that take their heritage very seriously and make it their job to share it with their coworkers and also the guests. Again, the more they know, the more they can answer the questions when people ask them. And it is their definition of authentic and their definition of Hawaiian, but many of them are participating in these things and they have their personal likes and dislikes and they share that with the guest.
It's a great question, and I appreciate it. I agree with what Pam has said. And we have, specifically to answer what have we done, we have engaged in cultural training and heritage training, specifically with our concierges to ensure that they're more in touch with the Hawaiian culture. Because many of our concierges, while many of them did grow up here, many of them have moved here like I did at some point, and so it's important for them to gain that experience. I think in addition to the responsibility that we have, it makes a tremendous difference when those organizations who support that culture and who support the heritage of Hawaii bring that information to us and invite us to come and experience. For instance, last night we were in a home that I had never been to before, and John was nice enough to welcome us into his home, and there's a lot of history behind the home there on Robinson Lane, and I had never been there. I didn't know that it existed, and I was grateful for the opportunity I had to learn more about it. And that's something that we as leadership can share with our teams. But in order for them to really feel it, they've got to be able to experience it for themselves. So I would invite, any organization who wants our concierge to be aware of what else there is out there that's not just an activity, to reach out to us and say, we want your team to be aware of what we're doing to connect guests with the local culture, so that when a guest is at your desk, you can make the recommendation that they come and see us. So it's a teamwork project.
Damon, can I ask specifically how they do that? I think that is a really, really good question. How specifically do they get in front of you and your team to make sure they're educated?
Another good question. So there's a couple of ways. You can reach out directly to me or any of our concierge managers, and oftentimes we work hand in hand with Pam. Pam's sort of the industry go-to. You reach out to Pam and say, hey, this is our new experience we want to share with people. This is something we feel like island guests are missing out on. Hey, Pam, can you reach out to the industry as a whole and coordinate with us for an opportunity for them to get some exposure to it? And Pam will reach out to us, and we communicate with the concierges and on down the line. So I guess the simple answer is you can reach out directly to me, any of our concierge managers, or Pam, and we'll work together to make sure that the concierge population is exposed to it.
It's also the focus of the publication. It's impossible to go meet with every single desk and every single agent and every single person that's going to touch a guest. You can't do it. No matter when you stop by the desk, you're never going to meet every agent that works there because, different shifts or whatever. So we use the publication as a way to disseminate information. I literally, no exaggeration, wake up to about 400 emails every morning, and I can go through upwards of 1,500 a day from people reaching out to me, sharing information with me, trying to get it into the publication. I just wanted to address one more thing on your use of the word activities. Activity isn't necessarily a luau or, or a beach activity. Also, an activity would be to go to Bishop Museum. That is an activity to go look at that and to learn about that. There are activities at Hawaiian Mission Houses Museum. So that word, we use that word to encompass everything. To go on Hawaii Forest and Trail is also an activity. So it does encompass everything, not just the, for-profit sort of ones as well.
I'll also chime in here and say that as an industry, my role at the Hawaii Visitors and Convention Bureau and with Meet Hawaii is to have our team well educated. So please feel free to reach out to me as well and make sure that we get your message on, there's a lot of volunteerism that our groups, small groups especially, want to partake in, and we need to understand how large a group each type of that activity can handle. So we need the specifics. So please make sure that you reach out to us as well. Any other questions? How are we doing on time? There's no one in the room from the timekeeper, so I think we are probably have time for one more question. Any more questions? All right, terrific. Well, thank you so much for your time and attention. We appreciate it.